Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to our online open day here at SRUC in Edinburgh, where we will be focusing on the horticulture courses that we offer. Just by way of introduction, I am joined also by a couple of colleagues at RBGE, who I'll hand over to in just a moment. But just in terms of what we're going to cover today, so we're going to look at a short presentation on our courses and also some of the services that are offered here at SRUC and the kind of student experience you could have with us. There's an opportunity for Q&A, so please do just use the Q&A function. If you have any questions throughout, just pop them in there and we'll answer them at the end. We're joined by Jack, who will be throwing them at us. And if I can't answer them, I'm sure Laura or James can. But if they cannot, we will be able to find some answers for you. And then I've also got a couple of dates for in-person events that are coming up as well. So by way of introduction, my name is Ruth Vichos. I am the Senior Lecturer and Programme Lead for the Horticulture programmes here in Edinburgh. And like I said, I am joined today by a couple of colleagues down at the Royal Botanic Garden, Edinburgh, joined by Laura and James. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Laura Cohen. I'm the undergraduate programme manager, so I oversee the RBGE side of things and liaising with SRUC, and I do a little bit of teaching on the course as well. And this is...
Good afternoon, all. I'm James Douglas, so I'm a lecturer here at the Royal Botanic Garden, Edinburgh, teaching on the undergraduate programme, and formally have just graduated from the BSc programme myself. So I liked it so much I decided to stay and do it again and again and again. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be very happy to try and pitch in and answer where I can.
Yeah, and we have a couple of other key teaching staff who we didn't put on the slide there just for spacing, but Johanna and Nikki, also former students, and Andy as well. So we fully understand the course and can hopefully answer lots of your questions about it.
We certainly can. So like I said, please do use that Q&A function. So a little bit about our programs, because that's actually what you're here to learn about. So we offer 3 different levels of qualification that you can apply for. We have our HNC, which is a 1-year level 7 qualification. We also offer our HND, which has 3 distinct streams to it as well that we'll cover in a little bit. And we also have our 2 degree streams as well, plant science and technology and plantsmanship. So our plantsmanship qualifications are delivered in partnership with the Royal Botanic Garden, Edinburgh, and which is one of the reasons why we're joined by Laura and James today, because they'll be able to give you much more information about what happens down at the gardens for those specific modules. So a little bit about our courses and our progression. So like I said, we do have 3 different sort of levels of qualification that you can apply for. But essentially, just to put it into context, our HNC is a 1-year program, but it is also the same as the first year if you apply for the HND or a BSc. And our HND qualification is the 2nd year of the HND 2-year qualification, or it's also the 2nd year of the 4-year honours degrees. I'm going to bring this back up in a little bit later on, just to kind of contextualize everything that we've spoken about. But just to go on to some of the subjects, because this is actually what we want to learn about. The HNC has been specifically designed to give you a really broad understanding of horticulture. So you would undertake 6 different modules that really highlight the kind of the key entry level areas of what is kind of the interest of most of our students at this point. So we cover things like production, we cover maintenance, biology, design of gardens as well. We go into the ecology and the environmental side of horticulture, and we also touch on social and community. So it's really, really broad. And at this point, I'm just going to bring James in because he's actually the module lead for the Maintaining Gardens and Green Spaces delivery down at RBGE. So James, do you want to tell us a little bit about that particular module?
Yeah, of course. So for plantsmanship students here, we have the module taught solely at RBGE on Tuesdays at the moment, all day. So it's 1 day a week coming in to do fundamental skills of horticulture and trying to bring people in to get that kind of contextual understanding of the basics, using hand tools and maintaining hand tools, up to using some bigger bits of specialist horticultural machinery, but then also giving the chance for people to spend some time working in the horticulture teams at the Botanic Garden, getting that sort of botanical context to their studies, And then my favorite bit of the week, we're doing walk-arounds and idents at the end of the day, just to not only start learning some more of the species, both indoor and outdoor, but also learning how to identify them and their plant families.
Yeah, so part of our kind of our ethos, I guess, in the first year of the qualification is really building in those core fundamental practical skills, but also plant identification as well. So we refer to them as idents, but it's really learning how to identify plants on a whole, like a broad range. So not just your typical garden plants, but also the indoor species, plants that are specifically used in more social contexts, those for therapeutic planting schemes and things like that. So we really try to embed that as like the core foundation of a lot of the program, whilst also learning all of the different kind of higher level subject areas. So just moving on then to the HND, which is the second year of the qualification. So as I mentioned, we have three distinct streams that you can choose from here. So we have production science, we have plantsmanship, and also landscape design. So irrespective of which one you would study, they all have 10 credits or 10 sort of module credits that are mandatory and covered by everybody. So you would undertake some work placements as part of a professional practice module, which if you are if you're a plantsmanship student, that will be down at the gardens, again, getting embedded with the different teams down there. If you're production science, you're likely to be kind of working either in our vertical farm here at SRUC Edinburgh, or maybe in our labs, but also out in the sector as well. We've got some students who have been working with Cyrenians in their community gardens and kind of just really understanding the production side of things. For landscape design, this is where we would focus much more on your design skills and getting you out into practice. So we have students at the moment who are in landscape architecture offices and helping them to kind of better their design skills, working on their computer drawings and things like that. In addition to the kind of the work-based side of our course, which I think is a big selling point, we also have obviously some other modules, taught modules too. So there's a bit more of the plant biology. There's a research module that you do that really lets you kind of explore an area of horticulture that you're most interested in. And then there are some specialism distinct modules as well. So within production science, you would focus much more on the different production methods from soil production right through to vertical farming, the really high tech side of production. And then you'll also look at specialist ways of propagating plants, particularly looking at micropropagation in the labs, but also some different seed treatments and kind of exploring the more technical side of how we go about producing plants, both for retail, but also for research and the likes. What about plantsmanship? How does that differ? What are the modules there?
So there's three of the modules in second year are taught at the Botanics. One of them is the professional practice module, which, as Ruth said, you do down at RBGE, where you'll do rotations, but they'll be building on the rotations that you would have done in first year. And when I say rotations, I'm meaning rotations in with the different departments, maybe the glass department or the alpine department, and they're coming up with specialist projects that you do in one of those to really kind of get you involved in the work that they do. But that's this part of this professional practice module that you'll do whichever stream you're on, tailored to your stream. But there are two modules that are very specific just to RBG, which is one is horticulture and historic and botanic garden horticulture. Too many letters, I always get them muddled up. But basically that's looking at the history of garden design and what's influenced it through the ages, what remnants of this can we see today. So really valuable way of getting an understanding of what is a garden, where do they come from, what's the purpose of them, and how you can start thinking about managing them. And part of that module also is then looking at botanic garden horticulture, so looking at the different collections that we have in botanic gardens, how you can manage them. And this year the students are doing a big a group project where they're working with a section in the one of the departments in the garden, for instance, the biodiversity garden. They're looking at it, analysing it, what's working in it, what's not working in it, in terms of the collections, what's growing well, and the interpretation in it. And then they're putting forward ideas to redesign the area, how it could be interpreted better for the public, what plants should maybe be brought into the collections, which ones should be propagated. So this is a really big piece where they're speaking with lots of staff from across departments, from our nature-based solutions department to they're meeting with the director of horticulture tomorrow to understand his vision. So that's a really exciting way of getting into managing a garden. And one of the students a few years ago said it really brought home to him how much is involved in the behind the scenes planning and management of a garden. The other module that we do down here is environmental and conservation horticulture, which is more looking at plants growing in more natural settings. But this is a really key part of and increasing part of work in botanic gardens, because a lot of what we do is focused around conservation. So understanding where plants grow and how they grow in the wild and evaluating them in the wild, and then thinking about, well, how would I come up with a conservation plan for this area and propagate some of the plants that might need to be restored in this area. So again, tapping into a different aspect of the botanic garden work. And for both of these, we sort of incorporate some trips to other botanic gardens and conservation programs as well. So yeah, it's altogether a nice out and about module where you're doing lots of things and going on various trips. So next week we're off to Glasgow Botanic Gardens, so should be fun. So yeah, that's the RBGE specialism modules there.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. They sound, honestly, they're so interesting. I think that's one of the things I would also highlight with any of our, whichever sort of level of study that you're interested in, is that we embed as many trips and real world experience as we can within within Scotland. We sometimes do an international study trip as well for those who are going into the fourth year of their studies, and we really just try to make it as applied learning as possible. And that's equally so for the landscape design HN specialism too. So within this one, you would the two kind of distinct streamed modules are landscape design skills and practice. So this is really honing in on your drawing skills, but then also how you can then layer those right from the kind of like your base drawing right into your construction plans, looking at hardscaping, using computer drawings as well, and how they all kind of build kind of on top of each other to create these really fantastic three-dimensional designs that the students are working on at the moment. And again, we use real-world clients for this. So we've actually just met with some of the students, and they were saying how incredible having these real-world clients to talk to and use their sites, and having it very sort of applied is really helping their learning. In addition to that module, they also have planting design for sustainable landscapes. It's a bit of a mouthful, but that one's really looking at planting design, but from an ecological context. So it's how you go about choosing not just the right plant for the right place, but also in terms of for the future as well. So it's not just for right now, and it's thinking about designing habitats for cities, but also like vertical walls, and really embedding some of the sustainable technologies that are now being used in landscape design into your learning. And again, that one's a very applied course. The students are currently digging up out the back, creating a bioswale and doing all sorts of testing and measurements on it to see how functional it really is. So we're very, very sort of, we're actually very proud of the fact that our courses are really applied, and we have as much learning that is that practical based embedded within our courses. And I think that's what actually makes us stand out from a lot of other courses that are offered across Scotland, is our ability to make it as applied as possible. So just minorly struggling with my slides here, 2 seconds, there we go. And one of the things that we've very recently just done and will be coming in from next academic year is we have just newly designed our degree offering. So this is for the 3rd and 4th year of the BSc Honours. And we have created 2 distinct specialisms here. So plantsmanship is one of them, and we now have our kind of new focus on plant science and technology as a sort of distinct stream. So again, there are modules that are done by all students across the 2 streams there, professional industry engagement. So again, building on those networking skills, work placements, attending conferences. It's really just about getting you out and about and a kind of a known name within the sector so that you're really ready to step into your career when you leave us. We'll focus on environmental horticulture as well, so really thinking about the science and the technology of building green walls or looking at phytoremediation. That one will be delivered by one of our researchers, Luis, who is currently using plants to mine for gold out of the ground. And he does some weird and wonderful things. And so he will be delivering that one, and it's going to be fab. Also, experimental and analytical techniques, so some of the lab skills that you could need in the future, depending on your career as well, and a few others built in. So focusing specifically first on plant science and technology. So this one has a really acute focus on research and development for the future. So it's really thinking about solving real world problems and how we can apply different biotechnologies and our understanding of plant stress in the face of climate change in order to make sort of informed decisions and improve the horticulture sector for the future. You'll look at a module called Production Management Technologies, which will be mostly based in our vertical farm. And that one will give you the real technical skills on looking at different technologies for the sector, from low tech, very passive systems, right up through into those much more technological vertical farming systems, and looking at robotics and how the sector is going to change in the coming years, so that you have the skills in advance to be able to kind of enter the sector and be really successful there. And plantsmanship as well. I apologize for the landsmanship on the slide. It didn't all fit. But Lauren, James, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that one?
Yeah, I think James is going to start off with conservation horticulture because he'll be leading that in 3rd year, and then we'll do the other ones between us.
Yeah, so just very quickly, so conservation horticulture for us, I think all of us across all the campuses that teach horticulture are aware of how important conservation is going forward, and at a time when 3/4 of undescribed plant species are at risk of extinction, kind of building on those previous modules you'll have studied and trying to understand the role of horticulturists, taxonomists, botanists in protecting species, both in a local, sort of Scottish context, in a broader European context, but also in a global context, and trying to figure out successes and challenges and limitations of conservation in a broader context.
Yeah. Thank you, James. Yeah, so and tying in with that, one of the things you really need to understand when you're conserving plants is, well, what is this plant? What name is it? How to identify it? And one of the main functions of a botanic garden is to classify and identify and describe plants. So the plant taxonomy module really does a deep dive into classification of plants. How do you identify them? How are they related to each other? Looking at the genetics of them, and that understanding is really key to conservation horticulture. Another aspect of what they'll do in 3rd year and 4th year, you'll do Plant Humanities 1 in 3rd year and Plant Humanities 2 in 4th year, and in 3rd year, Plant Humanities 1 focuses on ethnobotany, plants and people. How do people use plants? How have they interacted with plants through the ages? So there's usually a good chance to explore some ethnobotanical interests you might have as one of your assignments in that unit. In Plant Humanities 2, when you go into 4th year, the focus then shifts more into plants and the plants, people, and the designed landscape, and again looking at how you might start to conserve designed landscapes. What's the purpose of them? What are you thinking about them, where they might go in the future? Plant geography builds further on the plant taxonomy, but from a different perspective, looking at how are plants distributed through the world? What's happened throughout geological history that you've ended up with members of the pea family all throughout the world, and how closely related are they? How have they adapted as the land masses have shifted? So you'll explore more of that as part of plant geography. And then public garden leadership. This is one that's really setting people up, because a lot of our students will go on to be managers or curators in botanic gardens, and this is giving them some of the fundamental tools to understand what that higher level of management is involved. So we'll get in quite a lot of guest speakers to tell you about their experience, and how you can then learn from that when you step out, as Ruth was saying, ready for the world of work. So the second year modules are just where we're looking at management. It's very much on the ground management of a collection, whereas this is taking you up to that higher level. So yeah, that's what we're covering here.
Yeah, I would also say as well, just around public garden leadership, the BGCI, the Botanic Garden Conservation International, I think I got that right, James.
You did, yeah.
Thank you very much. They are really keen on this module. It's something that they have been asking for a number of years, and now that they found out that we're moving into this more leadership kind of field within plantsmanship, they were really impressed. And so it's certainly something that the sector itself and an organisation such as the BGCI are really excited about having as part of the offering as well. So very much forward thinking in the approach to the new degrees. It's more about what is coming for both streams, and making sure that you're equipped, irrespective of which one, for entering at the right sort of level.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say something quickly on the public garden leadership. I think quite often historically in a lot of public gardens, and I'd say museums, quite often people in those higher levels have maybe come from more of a business background and don't understand the subject. So by introducing this into our courses, we're hopefully breeding the future leaders in public gardens, museums, where they've got a real deep understanding of the passion that people have, and the importance of what they're doing. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, no worries at all. So I mentioned before I was going to bring this slide back up, and it's just to put into context everything that we've just said. So as I mentioned, we have our HNC, so that is the equivalent of year 1 of our 2 or 4 year courses as well. From there, you can progress into one of the streams. The landscape design HND does not have a degree to follow on to. So just to kind of make that clear, although there may be opportunities to progress into the degrees through conversation, depending on your interests, but we don't have a degree from there. Production science follows really nicely into that plant science and technology degree, and plantsmanship continues on. Cleanly titled, shall we say, from one to the next. So it's just to kind of show you the scaffolding and the progression pathways that we offer. At around this time, every academic year, our students are invited to either progress or graduate. So if you are, enrolled on a HNC or a HND, and you would you're really enjoying it and you would want to continue, we offer that as an opportunity as well. So it's not just doing what you've been signed up from the start. So now I have a question, Laura and James. Why should someone study plantsmanship with us? Why should they?
Fantastic. I don't know if you want me to say a few bits, and then I feel I should pass over to James. You could have a wee think. But I'll start off with just some of this stuff about what the Botanics has to offer, and then you can maybe do as a student who's just finished. So the Botanics is one of the world leading botanic gardens, in the top 6. Some people say in the top 4 botanic gardens of the world. And you might ask yourself, why is this? Well, we're just over 350 years old, so we've got a long established history, and actually we started off as a educational space for looking for plants for treating human illnesses, and that started off down at Holyrood. You will find out all about this if you come and study with us, but I think that established the need for research and cultivation of plants, and we've really just kept building the collections on that. So Now we have about 15,000 living plants in our collection here. We also have a herbarium, which is full of dried, pressed specimens, which can be used for ongoing research, classification, and importantly now, they're used a lot in research about climate change, like where were plants found in the past? How has the climate changed? Are they still found there? So they're some of these specimens, we've got ones dating back, I think about 400 years old, so older than us, I think. Yeah, and we've also got ones that Charles Darwin collected on his voyage to the Galapagos. So a historical gem, but also lots that can still be explored and examined there. And we've got about 3 million herbarium specimens in our herbarium here. We've also got a library which has got some really old archival records and books, and also current up-to-date journals as well that you can access. And it is actually a public access garden too, public access library. So as a member of the public, even if you're not a student with us, you can actually come and visit the collections and read the books on site, but you can't take them out. So we have living collections, dried collections, archival collections as well. We've also got a very active scientific research body doing a lot of the work on conservation and understanding the genetics of plant populations so we can conserve them better. We've got an active nature-based solutions team who are looking at some of the things that Ruth touched on with some of the SRUC courses too. So understanding how to manage really heavy rain downpours of rain with different approaches to planting. We've got 3 satellite gardens. I'll stop soon, Ruth, sorry. We've got Benmore over on the west, which is incredibly wet. We've got Logan, which is subtropical, and we've got Doik, which gets very cold and very hot. So we've got these different climates that we can expose plants to and see what their tolerances are. Again, really important for understanding future climate change. So we have all the usual facilities for studying for students as well. And our glass houses, if any of you are familiar with Edinburgh, you'll know they're wrapped up at the moment, but the Victorian ones I think should be open within the next year. So we'll hopefully be able to start using those again. But as students, you'll get to go behind the scenes a little bit more than the members of the public for some of the walk rounds that James mentioned. And I'll stop there and pass on to James, who was a student.
It's very hard to top there. I think that's pretty comprehensive. I think a couple of things I would say are just 2 personal reasons why I chose this degree for me to come and study, having a kind of horticultural background, but wanting to come and do something more academic, more scientific, and make more of a difference to the world. I think the course here between SRUC and RBGE across the board is not just about giving you information and that kind of learning, but building up those skills that will really make you stand out as a horticulturist, a taxonomist, a botanist, conservationist, and production manager, whatever you go on to do. I think this course really helps build you up to that skill level you might need. For me, particularly being at the Botanics, it's just about being surrounded by experts in their field, where you can be down in the archives with a historian for the morning, in a lab with a botanist for the afternoon, and then sat having lunch with a taxonomist and a gardener. Is quite amazing and quite an opportunity. So that was the personal reasons for me for taking on this course.
And I think the other beauty is you've not just got access to all the resources we've got at RBG, you've got access to all the resources and the staff and expertise at SRUC as well. So it's like you get double.
Best of both.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes us really stand out as well, is having not just kind of, as you said there, Laura, we have not just your kind of educational provision, but also the real world, having lunch with a botanist, kind of thing, and that is very hard to come by. It's very hard to come by, to just feel so immersed, and that immersive experience is exactly what makes us stand out, not just for plantsmanship, but also for our other courses. So I'm going to say a little bit about why I think someone should study on the plant science and technology stream, although I look after all of them, so I don't really mind, but this is the one that I teach on the most. So I would say that the thing with the plant science and tech stream is that it is an incredibly unique program, in that it was specifically designed to create skilled horticultural practitioners that are really equipped to address contemporary challenges, particularly with regards to being able to blend plant science with cutting edge technologies and the sustainable horticultural practices as well. So it's kind of looking at the jigsaw puzzle that is challenges that we face, such as food security, the climate crisis, looking at how we can actually, take lots of different pieces of a puzzle to all come together to really address these challenges, because it's not one size fits all. I was saying this to the fourth years this morning. We were talking about technology, and some of them just think they're just not interested in technology at all. And I was trying to explain that actually it has its place, as does regenerative, really, hands-on sustainable practice too. It's a big jigsaw puzzle, and that's what this stream really addresses. We have brand new state-of-the-art facilities to be able to use. You will be immersed in our brand new vertical farm that has just opened, having sort of unparalleled access to be able to use that facility to explore how plants grow and how they develop, all of the different weird and wonderful ways of manipulating our understanding of plant science to increase their medicinal properties, to look at how flavorful they are. Can they be have more minerals and vitamins in them when we look at their lighting regimes, for example? So really just not about the production of plants, but actually how can we actually use technologies to improve their performance and make them much more functional? And having these kind of state-of-the-art facilities, including our brand new labs that are almost open, and we have glass houses as well on site too. It really enhances that practical side of the learning. And like I keep saying, we are such an applied program. It's not just us sitting in the classroom, learning about plant science. You will be doing plant science, and using technologies as well at the same time. I think what really helps us stand out too is that we focus on real world solutions. SRUC is one of the top, I think it's actually the top now in the Guardian's rankings for agricultural research in the UK, because of the outputs that we now have coming out of SRUC looking at some of these global challenges. And you will be embedded within the research that's happening here. So I mentioned Luis before. He's one of our sort of gold standard researchers. We have plenty of them that you'll be engaged with throughout the 4 years of the course. And essentially tying all this together, what we're hoping to do is just prepare you to contribute effectively to the sector and to address some of the challenges. But like I said, the qualifications that we offer, not just plant science and tech, but plantsmanship as well, they are unique. We are the only course in Scotland that offers these, and I would say that maybe it's just me, but I would say that we have the best educational offering in the UK too. So for the qualifications that we offer and the level that we offer them to. So that would be why I would say studying one of the 2 different degree streams would be really fantastic, because it is just looking to the future and what we can do about it. In terms of the landscape design HND that we offer as well, so just thinking about sort of why you would study that one, if more of the design and artistic side of horticulture is what you're interested in. So we have a very specialized curriculum for this. We focus on some of those specialist topics that I mentioned before that integrate the art and the science of effective landscape design, ensuring that really well-rounded education for coming up with sort of state-of-the-art thinking around how we can use plants to better our landscapes, make them much more functional as well as aesthetically pleasing. Again, you would have hands-on learning. We have a design studio here. This course is predominantly, the design elements are delivered by John and Gerhard, who are 2 of my team. Gerhard is a landscape architect and John is a planting design specialist in his field, so who also delivers on the masters at the moment at Edinburgh College of Art. So he really brings in all of the kind of the botanical habitat side of landscape design, looking at the functionality of designs as well. So I would say that irrespective of whichever course you're interested in, you are going to get that really hands-on applied learning to make sure that you are ready for the future. whatever you choose that to be. And that actually just leads me very nicely on to what we have as our programme promise. And this is to provide you with an immersive learning experience to get you ready today for the sector tomorrow, irrespective of where in the sector that you would enter. And I think we are pretty good at doing that. So some of the benefits that we offer in terms of more of an SRUC wide perspective is that we offer exit qualifications at the end of each year. So we do sometimes have students who sign up for the 4-year course, and after say year 3, they've been offered a fantastic job at Logan Botanic Gardens and they're just desperate to get started. Then you would still be able to exit and graduate with a BSc at that level. So a general degree is what it's called. And similarly with a HND or a HNC if you were signed up for a higher level of course. And this is something that does not happen very much elsewhere. And I think it really helps because it just takes, just allows you to kind of go with where you're at in your life, I guess, and it doesn't tie you to something. And it means that you won't lose out if you do leave us a little bit sooner than you anticipated, providing you pass all of your assessments, because unfortunately we do have to assess you. Again, you can also progress through. So I mentioned this earlier, if you are, say, HNC registered and you're just loving the course, you can continue with us and you don't have to reapply. You would just progress internally. It's a very smooth, streamlined process. With quite a lot of our students at the moment are thinking about this already, which is great. And there's also scope to kind of move between the specialisms. Now, I would say this is really just between year 1 and 2, because once you get into year 2, this is where we're starting to delve quite deeply into the specialisms and subjects. But with sort of reasonable conversations between myself and Laura, this is something that we are quite familiar with students wanting to do that, because you don't always know what you want to do until you get going, you know. So they are some of the benefits in terms of progression and pathways. I'm not going to go through this because the list of career opportunities after doing a qualification with us is massive, not just within horticulture, but within landscape, in production, in research, in conservation, in amenity. The list goes on and it goes on and on. We have our graduates go all over the world, and that's what this course offers, really, is a sort of a global offering and being able to get you out and about and really, you know, into wherever it is that you want to do. In terms of how the course runs, we run across 2 semesters. So we have a first semester, which is a little bit shorter, it's September to December. And then after Christmas, you would come back into the second semester, which is a bit longer, and that is January to May. And it just helps us really maximize on the start of the growing season. We gear you up to leave us in May, and then off you go out into doing some sort of work placement or something over the summer before you come back in the following September. At the moment, our classes are timetabled Monday to Friday, split over AM and PM sessions. So it's usually 9 or 9:30 start up until lunchtime. You get a bit of lunch and then you're in with us until between 4 and 5 o'clock, sometimes a little earlier, depending on the nature of that session. But these longer classes really allows us to maximize the potential of those practical sessions. So they're really meaningful. Skipping slides. Sorry. There we go. So in terms of our timetables, we're working on next year's timetables just now, but this is what the timetable has looked like for this academic year. And we've just had some really good feedback actually from the students just today about the way that we've structured our timetables. So for the first year of the qualification, your classes would be Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday inclusive. So 3 days of on-campus sort of in-person contact time, with 2 days thereafter, whether that's evenings, weekends, whatever, Thursday, Friday, of independent learning. So if you are with us full time, it is the equivalent of a 5-day course, but we have just condensed the learning just to maximize your time on campus, minimizes your travel, and it makes it just a bit easier for organizing things like childcare. Second year is exactly the same, but it just shifts to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, with Monday and Friday allocated as independent learning. But again, that can be done whenever you are free to do so, as long as you do it. And then our third year and fourth year is kind of a little bit less condensed. Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday, and that's really just a timetabling sort of exercise. But we do try our best to make sure that we condense as much as possible. So, for example, in third year, the for the plantsmanship specific modules, they're on a Thursday in third year. So this is something that we've tried to do just to make sure that we maximize your time whilst you're with us. In terms of our approach to learning and teaching, I'm sure that James and Laura would like to kind of come in at this point too, just to kind of really emphasize that we utilize a really blended approach. There are some lectures, we do have tutorials, but we do maximize on those practical sessions as much as we possibly can. There's some online learning that you'll do, industry placements, industry visits, self-directed. The list is endless when it comes to blended. What's your thoughts, Laura and James, on the way that the course is delivered?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is that hands-on approach to give people that experiential learning. So out in the garden as much as we can. So it might be a walk around related to a subject. If you're looking at something in garden history, you'll be looking at the plants specifically related to that period in garden history. And another week, you'll look at ones that maybe were introduced to horticulture 100 years later when you're going on to another session. We'll get you doing sort of lots of quite often group discussions in class, set you some reading or to some videos to maybe watch, and then have some discussions around that. We'll often bring in experts from within the garden. So we had recently, the interpretation team did a session with both the fourth years and the second years for different modules, or our different experts in our arboricultural team will come and do some sessions. So where they'll take students out and they were looking at a tree, looking at the rot within a tree using a tomograph. So getting to see those sort of what are typical industry kind of tools and instruments for working with. So yeah, lots of different ways. That's very much in person kind of different approaches to teaching, but to back all of that up, we will have materials on Moodle, the online learning platform, with quizzes and videos and links to other resources that you can use. So yeah, absolutely. I don't know.
A few things to add from my point of view. I think horticulture, as Ruth has said already, is such a broad industry, and there's so many different facets and subjects within it. And what that does, and one of the best things about my time as a student for 4 years, was being surrounded by people from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, all different professional experience. And it's brilliant because you get to learn a huge amount from your peers as well as your tutors and other experts. But also it shows you that different people learn in different ways. And if different people have different expectations of what they want at the end of the course, it allows everyone to still have that fair chance to learn in their own way, or put more effort and time into those areas where they feel confident, or want to build up their confidence in bits where maybe they haven't had that experience before. So it's that balance and trying to meet lots of expectations at once. And I think it's something that horticulture, and this course particularly, does really, really well.
Yeah, I think you've kind of nailed it there, James, in terms of the way that we deliver is very much very cognizant of the fact that we have a very broad, diverse population of people who do this course as well. And I would say that for anybody who is watching this presentation, one of the questions that I usually get as part of the Q&A is, you know, I'm 40 and I'm looking to career change. Am I going to be, you know, too old to do the course? No. 2 years ago, we had a retired GP who came and did a HNC. She was in her 70s and she loved it and she had a great old time and she was brilliant. And what she brought to the course with our, you know, school leavers who are 18 was incredible. And I would say that our, you know, particularly from an age perspective, we have students from all walks of life, all age ranges who come on this course, and they all bring their own lived and learned experience. And that is something that is invaluable to your own learning experience as well. And for us as educators too,
Absolutely.
it's incredible what we learn from our students as well. So I would say that if you are concerned, there is no concern that should be had whatsoever when it comes to is too old. I know it's a question I get asked all the time, and absolutely not. Which again leads us on quite nicely to additional support needs. We do have again, a broad range of students who have additional support needs, and particularly Laura and I are very experienced in supporting students. But in addition to that, we do have a student support services here at SRUC and down at RBGE as well. So if you do have any pre-declared student support needs, or if you feel like you might, as you progress through undertaking your assessments and things, and or just as part of your learning, then we can support you with getting an assessment and making sure that you have the right support in place, whatever that may be. So we offer academic support, pastoral, mental health support. You'll also be assigned a year tutor who will be myself, it could be James, it could be one of our other members of the team. And we are there for like academic guidance really, but we do have those other support services too, as well as the library as well. So in terms of the student experience, I would say it is varied. There's a lot of like student experience that happens within the classes because they are so engaging and like active, and we go on all these trips and things. But in addition to that, we do have our Students Association, which has the worst acronym, SRUC. But the SRUC Student Association, they are fantastic. They organise loads of different events and quizzes, and they're there just to have a chat with, and they're really super supportive to just get engaged with. We have a peer support network within horticulture that is very aptly named Companion Plants. I think it is run out of our Oakridge campus, but it does a lot of online bits and pieces too. And we also run loads of activities and social events like barbecues. We always have one at the end of the academic year. Visits all the time. We try and do fun days out if we can, weather depending. And this is kind of what some of that looks like, I guess. We do wreath making, plant identification in the trees is always fun. I go ape in Dalkeith, and all sorts of different things that we do. I know as well down at the Botanics, there's lots of fun things that you can get involved in too. James, you do some sort of run, or you did recently.
Yeah. I don't want to
Did
talk
you
about it. I
win?
didn't do very well. I made it round the 2 laps, but not very quickly. Next year it'll be fun.
Next year.
Yeah, but yeah, here at the Botanics, if you are doing the plantsmanship, you're one of the staff and one of the team.
Yeah.
And that comes with not quite go ape, but we do have plenty of running around the garden, which I think people could say is monkey-ish at least.
And there's a choir. If you can sing, you can join the Botanics choir. They do songs all about plants, which is really quite exciting, and conserving plants and the plant projects happening here. So yeah, not your everyday tune.
One of the things I do remember from trips from SRUC and as a student at SIUC was some of the cross subject trips and activities and things with agriculture and economics students and things like that was really fascinating, and just to see different viewpoints on the same kind of issues, but from the side of things that they're looking at in their studies. So yeah, something to make the most of, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So if you are interested in studying with us, but you're maybe wanting to come and have a look around, we do have a couple of days coming up. So if you apply and you get a place, we have an offer holder experience day coming up on the 16th of April, 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock. So that based at SRUC, but that day, I believe as well, if you are plantsmanship, if you have an offer for the plantsmanship course, it will start a little bit earlier down at the Botanics. So you'll get a good mooch around down there, and then we'll bring you up and you get to have a look around up here too. So I'm sure Jack will be in touch regarding that in due course if he hasn't already. In addition to that, if you are here and you haven't applied yet and you're not quite sure, we do have an in-person version of this event where you will meet Laura and myself and James I'm sure James is coming, I've just decided he is. Meeting in person as well as some of the rest of the team as well. So that's on the 11th of June. It's a really nice one in June as well because the glasshouse is lovely and warm, and all of our grounds are full of flowers and it's just beautiful. So it's a really nice one to come and have a look around our facilities and things. So that's on the 11th of June, which will be getting advertised that you can sign up for. There is another one coming as well in August, I believe, around the 12th or something. Jack will I'm sure correct me at some point. And that's our clearing day too. So if you're still waiting on any grades coming out or anything like that, we do have a final one in August, which is just before we start. We do still have places available. So if you are interested, please do make your application, and we will be really looking forward to hopefully having you here with us in September. If you have any questions, feel free just to jot down my email address. It's on the slide at the moment. If you have anything specific to plantsmanship, if you just jot down Laura's email address too. I believe these slides will be going out anyway as part of the recording too, so the email addresses are on there. But honestly, just feel free to ask us anything, which I will now hand over to our Q&A session for a few minutes if there's any questions that might have come in.
Thank you for that, Ruth. Yeah, we've got quite a few questions rolling in actually. First off the bat, we have, as a mature student, do you have any guidance on which year of entry to apply for? And is it possible to speak with someone about the best option?
Yep, so it really just depends on prior experience or prior qualifications. As to which level you would apply for, I would recommend that you set up a conversation with myself, or unless it is specific to plantsmanship, in which case Laura could jump in too. But I'm more than happy to answer any of those really specific sort of application questions regarding prior experience and prior qualifications and which level would be right for you. I would say that it depends on the nature of prior qualifications. We do a lot of those really core practical skills in the first year of the qualification that will gear you up for the rest of the years. So that is something that I would that we can talk about just in terms of any prior experience that you might have. James, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, just quickly that I didn't have kind of formal A-level or hires or advanced hires sort of equivalent when I left school, but I did have sort of 5 years of background working in horticulture, and I did apply for both the HNC and HND level to come in at second year, and in the end went for the HNC first level just to try and bring up those other subjects that I didn't have so much experience in, and get that really firm baseline, and also just experience some bits of horticulture that I'd never tried before. Because even having some prior experience, it was really useful to start in at that baseline and build up from there. And get the breadth of subjects. So
yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And the next question, this came from Charlotte, who couldn't join us for the live event, but wanted this question asked. I've just applied for HND. When can I expect to find out about if I've been offered a place or not?
So admissions are working through all the applications at the moment, and they will be going out just as they're going through them. They will be sending out offers. Any of the more sort of borderline applications, I guess, come to me and Laura too, just to make sure that we're that if you don't meet the entry requirements, for example, we usually review things like your personal statement and prior experience and things like that. Because as James quite rightly said, it's not all about your academic background. It can also be that lived experience that you have as well. But I would say in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would hope that all of the offers will be out by, although don't hold me to that because admissions are working through.
The next one is, I spoke to John at Doors Open Day about vertical farms. How often would we actually be working in the vertical farms?
So if you are on the production science or the plant science and tech stream, then our production, like our second year students at the moment in production science, they're in there every second week, whether they're sowing seeds and harvesting, they're moving all the different trays around and learning all of the technology side of things, like pressing all the buttons and making weird and wonderful things happen. So they are in regularly. It has just opened, but once you progress into that third year, there is that production technology module, which again will be really, really regularly accessed in there, and the horticultural biotechnology module too will be focused out of there too. So quite a lot of hands-on experience, I would say.
Great. And the next one is plantsmanship based. It is asking, do you need to have a science to study plantsmanship?
I think this is, again, like Ruth says, this is one where we would look at your individual application. So sometimes people might have done O grade or O level or Nat 5s, I think they're called now, GCSE science, but they've maybe got other experience, and we would maybe have that. We would look at your application and might call you in for a chat with you about that. So for all of the qualifications, am I right in thinking that a science is required, but there is always that caveat that we can look at your application as a whole and we might chat to you. So it would probably go in as a borderline application that we would then consider separately. So it's not a no and it's not a yes there. So put an application in anyway is what I would advise.
Yeah, I would say so. There is a plant biology course in the first year of study. That runs mostly all year, that covers all sorts of different the kind of the foundations of plant biology and plant science. What Romana, who is delivering that just now, what she does is she gives some lower level materials for students who don't have that background, who are maybe struggling to at the kind of the level that it's at, so that through the week you work on some like prior learning that's a little bit lower, so that when you enter the classroom you're at the level for then the lecture or the lab or whatever it is that they're up to. So we do tend to support and make sure that you, as best as we can, that you have those foundations in place even if you don't have the official qualifications.
Excellent. And the next one is, how close is the campus to the botanics?
As the crow flies, or there is a bus that goes directly between.
Or two buses now.
Is it two buses now?
Yeah, I think the number 9, the number 8 and the number 9 both stop just outside the door. They go to slightly different places up around King's Buildings. I'd say it's about maybe 45 minutes on the bus. But probably an hour in total. But one of the things with the timetabling is we make sure we haven't got classes where possible on the same day, one at SRUC and one at RBG, so you're not having to do a crazy dash. If it's utterly unavoidable, which occasionally it is, what we do is we make sure we chop the morning one short and start the afternoon one a little bit later, so you're not having to eat your sandwiches as you're going on the bus or you're driving up between the two. But driving, it's maybe 20-30 minutes depending on traffic, and some students cycle it as well, and you'll get very fit because of the hills in Edinburgh doing that, so it's good.
If you go a lot faster going downhill.
Yeah, going downhill
to the botanics is much quicker.
Next question here is, I'm interested in crop production and also organic land use. Would I be better suited to horticulture or agriculture?
I would say horticulture. I would say that we cover production science, particularly, like I said, during the presentation. So in that HND year, you have a module that specifically covers all the different types of production systems, right from, and organics is part of that. So we have Arthi, one of our scientists who, researchers who delivers into that part specifically for organics. And we go through the really sort of regenerative field production right through to more of the higher tech and high tech input kind of systems as well, to give you that real understanding of all of it. One thing I would say is that horticulture is we cover all of the plants that agriculture does not, which is pretty much everything other than grains. So if you're interested, and potatoes, you know, I mean, even we cover potatoes, but if you're interested in any food other than a grain, I would say horticulture is the right course for you.
Excellent. And I've got one more question here. If there are any more questions, then please pop them in the chat. If not, you've got email links for afterwards. And that is horticulture very Scottish based in what we learn, or do we look at things on a global scale?
So I would say to begin with, we focus more here, you know, just to kind of give you those skills and embed them more from a, I wouldn't even say that we would call it a Scottish perspective, more just the skills that you need for today. But as you progress up through the years, we definitely bring in case studies. I mean, I was talking to my 4th years today about Singapore and their food security status. We bring in case studies and guest speakers from Australia and all sorts. So we do, as you progress up through the years, I would say it gets more global. Would you agree with that, Laura and James?
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely. Yeah, because the first year is about giving you the fundamentals that actually you can apply kind of anywhere you go in the world, because horticultural skills are transferable. You might just need to water a bit less or water a bit more, depending on where you are in the world and what sort of plants you're growing. But certainly at the Botanics, we've got our glasshouses with collections from across the globe in them. So tropical, arid, we've got alpine collections. But then a lot of our researchers work all across the globe as well. So Chile, South America, Australia, various different countries. So absolutely, we bring those connections in as we go through. So yeah, definitely global as well as local.
Yeah, no, reiterating the same sort of point. A lot of it's about building up those fundamental skills that are transferable anywhere. It's about the skills learning as well as just the information taking on board. And there's lots of, across all the modules, probably across all the streams, there's lots of chance for you to look at different areas of interest. So if there is something you're particularly interested in over something else, you can start to specialize. If you had a particular interest in Mediterranean planting or Mediterranean biome, you could spend some projects looking at the species and flora of different regions there. It's both in a sense.
Excellent. Well, that looks like that was the last question, so I'll bring this to a close. But yeah, all the email addresses that you'll need are there. You have mine as well for any sort of general SRUC questions. And Ruth, Laura, James, thank you very much for your time today.
You're very welcome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Bye.